Good morning. Wednesday, July 22nd, we'll be looking at the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8 this morning. And it starts out with mentioning the women by name. It talks about the people that are with Jesus. The 12, of course, just mentioned as the 12, which we have their names in another place in the Gospel. And then Mary Magdalene and Johanna and Susanna and their spouses, to identify who they were, are traveling with Jesus. And they are mentioned by name here. This Luke's gospel is the most inclusive of women of all the gospels, which would have been going totally against the culture at the time, patrilineal, patriarchal culture. So there it's just Luke's gospel is unique in that regard. Then we have the parable of the sower. We've seen that before. Parable of the sower is the one who sows seeds on the 4 different kinds of ground. The path where the birds eat it, the rocky soil where there's not enough moisture for it to get nutrients, the place where the weeds grow up and choke it out, or the thorns, and then the good soil where it produces 100-fold. So these are the 4 different soils, and Jesus just says the parable, leaves it at that, kind of drops the mic. And then the purpose of parables is mentioned here. And this is the curious part for me, is that he mentions the purpose of parables. He says, but I speak in parables so that looking, they may not perceive, and listening, they may not understand. And so I was like, what? Jesus, you speak in parables to confuse us? But I think if you look deeper at what he's trying to say here, and it is, look with our hearts instead of our eyes and our ears. Looking, you may not perceive. Hearing, you may not, listening, you may not understand. So he says, to you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of God, but to others I speak in parables, so that we can direct our hearts towards what we're supposed to understand, not necessarily what we see and what we hear. Also, the reason why he would go into the messianic secret as well. Then he explains the parable, very explicit, about which kind of rocky soil and the seeds that fell on the path, and the seeds that fell among thorns, and then the good soil as well. Then he has a little section about the lamp. And in that section, it says, nobody would light a lamp and then hide it underneath a jar or underneath the bed. When you light a lamp, you put it in a prominent place so that the whole household will be lit. And he says that pay attention to how you listen. This little phrase in there, that pay attention to how you listen. This story about the lamp is common to Mark, but not Matthew. And he's talking here about you're not going to hide the light, because the secrets will come out eventually. But pay attention to how you listen. For to those who have more will be given, and from those who do not have, even what they seem to have will be taken away. And I don't think that it means in terms of like material goods or even knowledge or heart expansion. I think it's whatever perception people have that seems to be of the earth, of the world, of the maybe cultural society that's going on. Jesus is going counter to that. So those who seem to be off the beaten path, if you will, they will have more. And they already have some of that, and they will have more. And to those who have less, who are like maybe in line with the oppressors or whoever is going on, what's going on there for that first century rabbi, they'll have less. So be careful, pay attention to how you listen. I think that's important because we're supposed to listen in a different way with our hearts, and I think that's what he's trying to say with that one. Then you get to talk to Jesus' kinfolk. Who are Jesus' people? And Jesus says, anyone who hears the words of God and does the words of God will be my family. And then the story, of course, Jesus sleeps through the storm, common to all 3 Gospels. So there's a storm that comes up and they have to wake him up. The storm doesn't wake him up. They have to wake him up. And then he calms the storm for them. But he had originally gotten the boat because he asked them to go to the other side. So we have, after the storm is calmed, we have him healing the Gerasene demoniac in the Decapolis, goes over to the other side of the lake, to the land of the Gentiles, and heals the Gerasene demoniac. This miracle happens. The people of the town get really nervous about the miracle that had occurred, what they had seen happen, the guy sitting in his right mind, and they asked Jesus to leave. They were concerned about that. And so Jesus gets in his boat to leave, and the man who had been healed begs to come with Jesus. But Jesus says, no, you can't come with me. You need to stay here and tell people how God had mercy on you and share the story, which is the opposite of what Jesus always says. Keep the secret. But he says, no, return to your home, declare how much God has done for you. So Rob Bell would say, maybe Jesus doesn't want you to follow him. And so don't go in the boat with Jesus, but stay where you are, because your witness is to the Gentiles, because you cannot be witnessing to anybody else in another, where they're not going to listen to you because you're of a different ethnicity or different understanding, and you follow different cultural norms. So stay here, tell your story, and I'm going to go back to the other side of the lake. Then we have the story, the two miracles in one, where Jesus sets out to heal Jairus' daughter. And in Luke and Mark, this man is named, this person that Jesus is going to heal his daughter, sets out to heal Jairus' daughter. And on the way, the crowd presses in on him. The woman with the issue of blood comes up and touches his garment. And the woman is never named. The child is never named, but Jairus, the father, is named in the story. And then he eventually makes it to Jairus' home, heals the daughter. And again, at the end of the passage, don't tell anybody what's happened here. Keep it under wraps, the messianic secret. So we have this coming through, this Markan theme of the messianic secret coming through in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8. Have a wonderful day.